British rapper accused of raping a woman in Perth has been given permission to go home for Christmas, but location services must be enabled on his devices at all times.
And you know what's really hard? Living alone since I was 18 and just not having no one there, you know?
On October 10th, 2024, in Perth, Australia, a prosecutor stood in a courtroom holding photographs of a woman's injuries and told the judge that no ordinary person could consent to what's shown in these pictures. Turns out the man she was talking about was young Philly, the refugee kid from Colombia who became one of the UK's most beloved entertainers. Surprisingly, now he's facing 6 counts of rape, 3 counts of causing injuries, but here's what makes young Philly's case so disturbing. It's the fact that this wasn't just one incident in one country. Summer 2024, a woman in Spain reported an assault. September 2024, 3 months later, another woman in Australia reported, making it 2 countries, 2 allegations, and 2 investigations happening at the same time. And if you go back through his content, you start seeing things people missed. Him joking about women, behavior that seemed like banter at the time, but it's completely different now.
Okay, look, monkey see, monkey do. Not crazy. Like a it was more like a, you know what I mean?
What those? Yeah, see, look.
What?
Yo.
Even his best friend Chunkz joked before any of this went public that he had too many stories and wouldn't let Philly marry anyone in his family.
I wouldn't let you marry my family, but yeah.
Why? I'm a good man. What's wrong with me?
No, I have too many stories. Anyway, yeah.
What stories?
Industry insiders said they heard rumors for years about him being shady at events.
Here's the one that really stood out to me. The way he was acting in Australia was outrageous. And then someone else replies, "What happened?" And then the original poster says, "He beat my homegirl outside the club."
Within 72 hours of his arrest, every major brand dropped him. Foot Asylum, the Football Association, ASOS, Gymshark, all of them gone. The Sidemen made their 86 million view video with him private. His live tour got cancelled. From the most bankable face in British entertainment to toxic overnight. In all this chaos, Chunkz' friend posted one vague statement saying he can't comment on an ongoing case.
As this is an ongoing court case, I hope you guys can understand that I can't and won't be commenting on it publicly.
The Sidemen stayed completely silent, while Beta Squad said nothing. The people who built their platforms alongside him just disappeared. It didn't take a long time for people to see a very disturbing side of Philly. He started posting bizarre Snapchats from the UK while waiting for trial, eating on camera with no context, dancing, suddenly going to church and talking about finding God, posting that he's back on eating pork, which his Muslim friend saw as a shot at them for distancing themselves.
Hey, I'm back on the pork! I was sleeping for years!
Then he gets photographed training at a gym with Chunkz, and the internet loses it. People asking how Chunkz can support someone facing these charges. Others saying if the roles were reversed, Philly wouldn't do the same.
I want to talk about young Philly. I've been looking at his snaps, I follow him on snaps, and I'm just like, something don't seem right to me. And I hope man's saying, listen, stop pushing a fake narrative, but I'm looking at this and there's too much videos and I have to speak out to raise awareness. People go and check up.
So how did the refugee kid who made everyone cry talking about his mom end up here? How did the guy who was everywhere in 2024 become the person no brand wants to touch?
Work hard to make your dough, to have nice holidays and make good memories with the people you love. Get up, be a hustler and make things happen.
Let's go back to where this all started falling apart. September 27th, 2024, Bar 1 nightclub in Perth, Australia. Philly was on tour, performing to a packed venue, doing what he'd done hundreds of times before. The show wrapped up, fans went home, and well, Philly went back to his hotel. According to police reports, what happened in that hotel room on September 28th would change everything. A woman in her 20s reported that she'd been She went to the authorities, gave her a statement, and showed them her injuries. For the next week and a half, police gathered evidence, statements, medical exams, CCTV footage from the nightclub and hotel. By the time they were ready to make an arrest, Philly had already left Perth.
British rapper and YouTuber Young Philly has been charged with rape over allegations he attacked and strangled a woman on his Australian tour. Police arrested the 29-year-old in Brisbane on Tuesday. He was sent to Perth on Wednesday to face a hearing after the alleged attack happened there following a show. Philly is accused of sexually
October 8, 2024, Brisbane, Australia. Philly was there for the next stop of his tour. Police caught up with him at the airport and took him into custody. They didn't just arrest him in Brisbane and let him sit there. They extradited him back to Perth. 2 days later, Philly appeared in Perth Magistrates Court for the first time. And this is where things got real. The police didn't want him getting bail. They told the court he was a flight risk. He had ties back to the UK, millions of followers, money, and every reason to just disappear if they let him go. They also said he might try to contact witnesses or interfere with the investigation. But the biggest reason they didn't want him released was that they said they had an extremely strong case. CCTV footage, medical evidence, witness statements, and photos of the victim's injuries. After the usual court back and forth, Philly was granted bail. But it came with conditions that made it clear this wasn't freedom. First, $100,000 in bail money. If he violated any condition or didn't show up to court, that money was gone. Second, he couldn't leave Western Australia, not just Perth, the entire state. He was stuck there until the trial was over. Third, daily police check-ins. Every single day he had to report to a police station and prove he was still in the area. The media caught him doing exactly that, showing up in a beige hoodie and cap, saying nothing to reporters. Fourth, no contact with the victim. He couldn't call her, message her, show up anywhere near her, nothing. Any attempt to reach out would violate bail immediately. And fifth, he couldn't talk about the case on social media. That meant no statements to his millions of followers, no defending himself publicly, and no trying to control the narrative while the legal process played out. So what was he actually facing? Let's break down the charges, because the legal language can get confusing. Initially, 4 counts of sexual penetration without consent. In other words, under Western Australia law, that's any non-consensual penetration with a body part or object. Each count can carry up to 14 years in prison. 3 counts of occasioning bodily harm. That means intentional violence that causes injury. 1 count of escalation. This charge exists separately because cheating is one of the strongest predictors of future lethal violence in domestic and sexual cases. That was October 2024. 8 charges total, already serious enough to end his career. But in June 2025, 8 months later, prosecutors filed 2 more charges. 2 additional counts of sexual penetration without consent. That brought the total to 6 charges. Why would they add more charges months later? Usually it means investigators found additional evidence, victims came forward with more details, or the initial investigation uncovered more incidents than they originally charged. It's a sign the case was getting stronger, not weaker. March 11th, 2025, Philly appeared in court again and entered his plea to the initial 8 charges. Not guilty, all of them. He was saying none of it happened the way the prosecution claimed, that whatever occurred in that hotel room was consensual, and all the evidence would be explained at trial. The trial was set for July 20th, 2026, 10 days in Perth District Court. A jury would hear everything and decide whether Philly was guilty or not. But by the time the trial was scheduled, the damage to Philly's career was already done. Because while Philly was sitting in that Australian courtroom figuring out his bail conditions, back in the UK, his entire career was being erased in real time. And this wasn't some slow decline or brands quietly distancing themselves over weeks, more like a coordinated wipeout that happened so fast, it felt like someone hit a delete button on his entire existence. Starting with Foot Asylum, which was one of his biggest partnerships. Does the Shoe Fit was massive for him, one of the most popular dating shows on the UK YouTube. Philly was the face of it. His personality, his humor, his ability to make people laugh while also being a little messy, that's what made the show work. October 11th, 2024, 1 day after his court appearance, Foot Asylum put out a statement saying that they were ending the contract with young Philly with immediate effect.
Young Philly has had his Foot Asylum contract suspended after the YouTuber was charged over allegations in Australia. The rapper is a regular on the brand's YouTube channel and stars in
The Football Association was even faster. October 9th, literally 1 day before Philly's court appearance, they'd announced a new series called Freestyle Cooking. It was going to feature Philly cooking with England players Bakuya Sakayo, Ezri Konsa, and Jared Bowen. But on October 10th, a day after his court hearing, the FA pulled the entire series. The Chunkz and Philly show live was supposed to happen on October 18th at the Troxy in London. Tickets had been sold and and fans were excited for the big night. The same day, the venue took the show off their website. And the next day, October 11th, Dice, the ticketing platform, sent out automatic refunds to everyone who'd bought tickets. The sidemen stung differently because the sidemen almost never delete content. Their whole thing is leaving videos up even when they're messy or controversial. But within days of Philly's arrest, they made the 20 Women vs. 1 Philly edition video private. If you tried to search for it now, it doesn't exist on the channel. They also privated a Best Moments compilation and disabled comments on a Channel 4.0 show called Minor Issues, where Philly had been the host. Hines also pulled all their humorous ads with him. ASOS deleted promotional material from influencer fashion collabs. Perplex Clothing deleted an entire clothing line that had been built around him. German Doner Kebab removed all their marketing materials. Gymshark canceled a dating show called Hit Off that had been already filmed and was ready to air. Upload Productions, the company that had been developing his future TV projects, put out a statement saying they were aware of the serious allegations and had paused working with their client. But the brand exodus was just the beginning, because while all of this was happening publicly, there was another case, another country, another allegation that was about to make everything so much worse. March 2025, 5 months after the Perth arrest, news broke that there was another case with another and in another country. This one happened in Magaluf, Spain. If you've never heard of Magaluf, it's one of Europe's biggest party destinations. Beach clubs, nightclubs, tourists from all over coming to let loose. According to the story, in summer 2024, Philly was in Magaluf for a performance at a beach club. After the show, he and his crew ended up at a nearby nightclub. That's where he met a British tourist, a woman in her 20s who was on holiday with friends. According to her account, she ran into Philly at the nightclub. There was some interaction there, touching, that she says crossed the line. Inappropriate behavior, but it didn't stop there. Later that night, the group ended up at a hotel, multiple people, including one of Philly's friends. And here's where the story gets complicated in a way that makes everything harder to process. She says she had consensual sex with Philly's friend in the hotel room. That part, according to her, was fine. She was okay with what happened with the friend. But then she ended up alone with Philly, and that's when, according to her, everything changed. She says Philly assaulted her in that hotel room in Magaluf while she was supposed to be on holiday having fun with her friends. She didn't report it right away. She finished her holiday, flew back to the UK, and only then went to the police. British police took her statement, documented everything, and then forwarded the case to the Spanish Civil Guard because the alleged crime happened in Spain. The timing of this incident makes it even more damning. The Spain incident allegedly happened first, which means when Philly showed up in Australia for his tour in September, there was already an open investigation happening in Spain. He was already under scrutiny for one allegation when the second one occurred. The question is, did he know about the Spain investigation when he went to Australia? Or did he think nothing would come of it because she reported it after leaving the country and these things rarely go anywhere? Unfortunately, we don't have the answers to those questions. But what we do know is that between summer and September 2024, Philly was out there living his life, while at least one woman had already reported him to authorities. And those posts hit differently once people knew what was happening behind the scenes, because suddenly the question wasn't just about Spain or Australia. Now it was about everything people thought they already knew about him. Remember that clip where Chunkz joked he wouldn't let Philly marry anyone in his family because he had too many stories?
Yeah, I wouldn't let you marry my family, but yeah.
Why? I'm a good man. What's wrong with me?
No, I have too many stories. Anyway, yeah.
What stories?
Huh?
Yeah, people weren't laughing at that anymore. They were asking what stories Chunkz knew about. What had he seen or heard that made him say that even as a joke? Now, to understand how someone goes from national treasure to facing charges in 2 countries, you need to go back. August 6, 1995, Cali, Colombia. That's where Andre Felipe Valencia Barrientos was born. But Colombia didn't stay home for long. At just 2 years old, his mom packed up everything, took him and his sister Diana, and fled to the UK as refugees. Philly talked about this openly, and people loved him for it. He said his mom worked jobs where people treated her like she was no one, where she was invisible and disposable, just another immigrant doing the work nobody else wanted to do. He wore that struggle like a badge of honor instead of hiding it. And that authenticity is what made people connect with him so deeply. School wasn't much better for him either. He went to Conisborough College, and by his own admission, his grades were terrible.
In school, I got 4 GCSEs, you know. Imagine that, yeah? I was going to results day, and I knew my results were gonna be knackered. Before I even open up the envelope, I'm laughing like,
He wasn't the kid who was going to study his way out of poverty, because that path just wasn't open to him. For a while, football seemed like it might be the answer. Around age 11 or 12, he actually went back to Colombia to play in Barranquilla, thinking maybe he could make it as a footballer and change his family's life that way. But after year 11, he realized football wasn't his life and came back to the UK with no clear plan, no obvious talent that was going to save him, and a family still struggling to make ends meet. And here's what made people fall in love with him completely. By 2016, Philly was building traction on his own, posting loud, unfiltered comedy skits. There was no middle ground with Philly. He was doing street content for Wall of Entertainment, walking up to random people with awkward questions and turning it into comedy gold.
Like this man, he got lit for me, yeah? Cool, let me done.
In September 2016, he got his first real music industry nod when UK rapper Cadet put him in a music video. It wasn't a huge role, but it was a sign that people in the industry were starting to notice him. He was building a cult following, but he wasn't mainstream yet. He was still just another YouTuber grinding it out, hoping something would break. And then in 2018, everything changed, because it was in this year that Chunkz and Philly became buddies.
What's the real story though?
How we met?
How Chunkz and Philly come together.
He was my little fan.
He was your little fan.
I'm not even lying though. He was my fan.
No, chill out with it.
I was his fan, but I just kept it more calm. It's because he sent me a Snapchat once of him singing.
February 2nd, 2018, their first collaboration went up on Chunkz' channel. It was a Guess the Lyrics video, nothing much, just two guys having fun and making each other laugh. But it hit lots of views and lots of reactions. Because of this, the next day, Philly launched his own YouTube channel properly, and Chunkz was right there in his first video.
Yeah, man, it's your boy Young Philly, and right now I am alongside
Man like Chunkz, you know what it is already.
We had to do another one. Do you know what it was, yeah? We see the response that we got from your channel, and it was crazy. And then I said, you know what? Let me jump on this YouTube thing properly and get you on my channel. So
from that moment on, they were a package deal. 6 years later, they launched the Chunkz and Philly Show, a podcast that would become one of the biggest in the UK with over 600,000 subscribers. Their highest videos were pushing 2.9 million views. They had guests like Idris Elba, Drusky, Harry Pinero, all the biggest names in UK content creation coming through to talk to them.
Yes, my people, it's Chunkz.
yeah, man, it's your boy Young Philly.
And yeah, we're here with the Chunkz.
In 2020, they won Best Media Personality together at the MOBO Awards. Not Philly alone, not Chunkz alone, both of them as a duo, because by that point you couldn't separate them even if you wanted to.
The winner for the Best Media Personality is, ready for this one?
Chunkz and Young Philly!
However, while the Chunkz partnership was making Philly bigger in the YouTube world, it was the mainstream opportunities that turned him from a creator into a household name. The BBC came calling first, and that's when things really started to shift into a different gear. 2018, Philly started hosting Hot Property for BBC 3. Then Don't Scream came in 2019, and by 2022, he had his own spin-off show called Munya and Philly Get Chilly. In 2020, he and Chunkz were featured in the Chicken Shop Date episode that racked up 19 million views. By 2022, he was playing in Soccer Aid, a charity football match where Philly scored a goal for England and the internet lost its mind over it. That goal made it really clear that Philly wasn't just a YouTuber anymore. He was someone the mainstream was ready to embrace fully. Beta Squad became a regular home for him. He'd show up in their videos and immediately made everything more chaotic and entertaining. But the real turning point, the moment that made Philly absolutely unavoidable, was the Sidemen. People who'd never heard of Philly before Sidemen suddenly knew exactly who he was. His personality, his humor, the way he could be charming and messy at the same time, all of it was on full display for the biggest audience he'd ever had. Foot Asylum's Does the Shoe Fit became one of the biggest dating shows on UK YouTube, largely because of Philly's hosting. He knew how to push boundaries without going too far, how to make people laugh while also creating genuine romantic moments, or at least that's what it looked like at the time. By 2024, Philly was everywhere, and I mean everywhere. TV shows on Channel 4 and BBC, regular features on the biggest YouTube channels in the UK, brand deals with Nike, ASOS, Foot Asylum, Asylum, live tours with Chunkz that sold out immediately, music collaborations, podcast dominance. There was no corner of UK entertainment where you could hide from young Philly. And that level of visibility should have meant accountability. It should have meant more eyes watching and noticing. But there were signs, little moments in his content that people dismissed as banter or jokes. If you go back and really pay attention to how he talked to women, how he acted around them, you start seeing a pattern that was hiding in plain sight the whole time. And that's what made it work. That's what kept people from questioning him. He talked about respecting women constantly, from talking about how his mom sacrificed everything to saying he was raised by strong women who taught me how to treat people with dignity. Everyone believed him because why wouldn't they? He retired his mom, cleared her debt, set up his sisters, built his whole brand around being the devoted son who never forgot the women who raised him. That story was beautiful and inspiring, and it felt genuine every time he told it.
Wow. Yeah, I retired my mum. She used to work in Poundland. And it got to the point where she was working in Poundland, people would like see the resemblance between me and her. Yeah.
Now here's where it gets complicated. An ex-girlfriend of Philly's posted a video after the arrest that was clearly meant to provide character evidence, to show that he was capable of being respectful and treating women well. She wanted people to hear from someone who'd actually been in a relationship with him, instead of just judging him based on allegations from strangers.
Before we start, obviously I don't want to air personal business. That's private. I actually know Philly, so at least the people that are watching this can have something based on someone that actually knows him and not people speculating and just know him from seeing him on the internet and Garth and...
She made it clear right away that she wasn't in Perth, didn't know what happened that night, wasn't claiming to have any insider information about the specific allegations. She was just offering her own experience as proof that Philly had been a respectful partner to her, and maybe that should count for something.
My experiences with Philly made me feel comfortable. There was actually, I'm going to make a point of saying this, there was a point where he was like, if you don't want to do anything, if you don't want to... Bear in mind, we'd spoken last year, we'd been seeing each other.
And on the surface, that seems like relevant information. If you're trying to figure out if someone's capable of... knowing that they treated previous partners well might suggest they wouldn't harm others. But the comment sections immediately pointed out the problem with her defense. How can she have her side when she wasn't there? She's talking about her own experiences with Philly, which are completely separate from what allegedly happened in Perth. Her relationship with him tells us nothing about his relationship with other women in different circumstances. So when you look at everything together, the choking joke before the in charge, Chunkz saying he had too many stories years before any of this went public, the Spain investigation happening at the same time as Perth, it stops looking like isolated incidents. It starts looking like a pattern that was there all along, visible to anyone who wanted to see it. July 20th, 2026. That's when the trial starts. 10 days in Perth District Court. A jury will see the CCTV footage prosecutors claim to have, the injury photographs that were described as showing a history of violent acts, the medical evidence, the witness testimony, and they'll decide whether the prosecution proved its case beyond a reasonable doubt. There are only two outcomes from here. Guilty means Australian prison for potentially decades. Then deportation back to the UK where Spain's investigation is still waiting. Not guilty means he can leave Australia, but his career is still destroyed, the brands are still gone, and his reputation is permanently shattered, regardless of what a jury decides.
Okay, we finally have another update on the young Philly situation. He appeared in court today with a grown-out beard and hair, officially pleading not guilty to the 8 charges alleging that he sexually assaulted and choked a woman in his hotel room in Perth, Australia. This means that he will be fighting the allegations in court, and he will appear before the state's higher district on June the 13th. Also, for the first time, he spoke to the media outside the court, but he only said it's a beautiful day before getting in the car and driving off. And that's that. He's still out on bail, and I'll keep you guys updated if anything else comes out.